I'm Adam Johnson. My wife and I have grown our real estate business from nothing into the millions, and now my life's purpose is to show you how we did it so that you can do the same. Starting this month, I'm uploading a ton of free and very helpful videos that will be your step-by-step guide to starting an Airbnb business utilizing our go-to property acquisition technique called Subject to. Follow along these course videos, take notes, and dive into the exciting, challenging, yet very rewarding world of real estate investing with me, Adam Johnson. Enjoy.
Hey, welcome back. Now we're ready to talk about the 6 critical documents, the documents that we have used to purchase all 50 some odd properties in our business. And we've done so with these documents and have been very protected and feel really confident in what we're doing with these documents. Now we also have these available for download on our website, but for now I'm going to run you through the high points, what they are, what's important about each, and why they're necessary as well. They are in order, not necessarily in order, but the purchase agreement, the statement of understanding, the power of attorney, the escrow addendum, the statement to the mortgage company, and then the seller information sheet. All right. We'll talk about all of them, why they're important, and what the verbiage should say to give you the protection you need with each document for each transaction. First thing first is the purchase agreement. Okay. So every property, no matter realtor's using, if you use a realtor or not, every property must have a purchase agreement. And all that is the terms that you, the buyer, and the seller, or vice versa, agree to include, the date of closing, the price, taxes, amongst many other details. And that's why most sellers or even buyers hire a realtor to help them with a lot of these processes. Now, I'm here to tell you, I have never used a realtor to buy any of the subject to houses. Never. Don't have to, don't need to. A common misconception with home buyers and sellers is that you must use a realtor. Now, I'm not against realtors, but no, you do not need, being the key word, a realtor, especially subject to. There's no need for a subject to for a realtor in those types of transactions. But just in general, if I want to buy a property outright with cash or finance it with a bank, I don't need a realtor. So it's a common misconception. Again, realtors can be your best friends. They can be assets with lead generations and those types of things, but they're not a necessity in what we're going to accomplish in our business. So a purchase agreement, what makes it unique with the subject to is that there's no money being transferred with this transaction. So obviously with most acquisitions of a property, there's most cases hundreds of thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars at minimum are being exchanged. With a subject to transaction, depending on many terms and how you've negotiated the contract, no money should be part of the contract. Again, in most cases. It's not your typical agreement. That being said, because of the verbiage in some of the notes and that kind of stuff in there that must say certain things. But I will say one thing that's great about being a subject to home buyer is you can be as creative as you need to be. And I said this before, creativity is your superpower as an investor and as a subject to home buyer. So the verbiage in the contract should stay that makes it a little bit different from your typical purchase agreement. It should say somewhere in your contract that the seller, being the homeowner, and the buyer being us, the investors, that the buyer will take over the property on or before, for example, 1 April 2025, whatever it is this year. It should say that the buyer will begin making mortgage payments on said property or on said date, whatever you agree to. Amongst many other little small things that should be in your contract. Again, we have these contracts for download, but your attorney should also be able to provide you with documentation as well. They're probably going to charge you for them, but anything worth having, it's worth doing it the right way. Please do not Google and try to find the cheapest way possible to do a subject to deal. People do it all the time. They end up calling me and say, hey, my contract didn't have this. And I say, it is what it is. So talk to your attorney, or like I said, we have our documents available for download on our website as well. So moving forward, so they sign a purchase agreement with us that says, when we're going to take ownership of the property, when we're going to close, and many other details within that. Also, we do a statement of understanding. What is a statement of understanding, or an SOU? An SOU, or statement of understanding with subject to, is in layman's terms of what is happening. I started using this probably after we bought our first maybe 5 houses. I read a great book by Lindy, I forgot her name. I'll get that to you guys in another course. But the book was only on subject to and lease option transactions. So I took some of the information that she recommended and I put into a statement of understanding so that the seller and us, the buyer, are on the same page in layman's terms what's happening, being that the mortgage is not going to be, the buyer will begin paying the mortgage for the seller. The mortgage will stay open on the seller's credit report. What are the pros and cons, the risk rewards for both the home, for the seller and the buyer? All of that is in layman's terms. So there is no, I didn't know, I was confused, I'm not sure. We break it down very, very simple. And actually on our downloadable chart, we actually have a little flow chart of what's happening. The mortgage is staying in place. The deed goes to the new owner, which is us, Johnson Property Investments. And then once we sell the property, the mortgage gets paid off that way or at that point, unless we refinance it, and that's a little bit more complicated. We'll talk about that later. So just for right now, use the KISS method with your statement of understanding. Keep it super simple. Keep it in layman's terms. The purchase agreement, unfortunately, has to be in legal terms because that's how the state and the county see things. But for you and I, we put it in layman's terms on a statement of understanding so that I am confident that my seller and myself are on the same page with this transaction. I can't be more clear. You want to be as ethical and as transparent as possible when doing these types of transactions. The next thing is the power of attorney. The third document that we always have everyone sign is the POA, power of attorney. Now, obviously, it's not a general power of attorney. It's a very specific power of attorney from sellers about said property. And all it's saying is that the new buyer, in this case, us, Johnson Property Investments, has the right to act on their behalf to sell the home, to refinance the home, to change the insurance if need be, to make repairs. We have the rights with that very specific power of attorney to make those administrative actions if we need to on behalf of that property. Now, this is also very important because whether you have the house for 5 months or 5 years, when you go to sell that property down the road, 5 or 6 years, the house you acquired subject to that you've been paying on for 5 years, remember, the mortgage is in the name of the seller still. So in order for you to sell that property, you have to have the power of attorney to be able to sign the mortgage closing docs on behalf of said seller to sell the property to the incoming buyer. So you must have the POA signed, notarized at closing, and maintain the whereabouts of that document. Obviously, it's super important for why? So that you can sell the house down the road, or you can refinance the house. Let's say, for example, you buy a property 5 years later, the property has appreciated $50,000 and you want to do a cash out refinance. So you want to keep the house but pull money out of that property. Again, the mortgage is in the seller's name. So you have to have that POA to pay off their mortgage when you refinance it and have a new mortgage in your name in order to get that equity. So kind of an advanced technique, but we'll talk about that later in the course. So the POA must be signed by the seller. I can't say it any more clear than that. The escrow addendum, okay? That's the fourth document we have to make sure that we get signed. Why is this important? Because so every year, without you even knowing it, your mortgage company pays your taxes and insurance up front, usually, in most cases, okay? So let's say, for example, that where you live, your property taxes is $2,000 and your insurance is $1,000. Your mortgage company, for example, Wells Fargo, will pay the insurance $1,000 and the taxes, the city or whatever, the $2,000. So you owe the mortgage company an additional $3,000. What the mortgage company usually does is they divide that in 12 payments for 12 months, and they add that to your principal and interest payment. So on your mortgage statement, most mortgage statements you have what's called PITI, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, and that's how that's how it's calculated as far as your escrow. Why is this important? Because many cases you overpay the escrow, the taxes and insurance, or even if you do not overpay, let's say, for example, that January of next year, your mortgage company pays $3,000, using the example I just used, okay? However, you sell that property in March. So only 2 months have gone by since you paid fully for the year $3,000 for the taxes and insurance. where does that money go? That money is not just spent. They owe that money back to you. However, if the mortgage is still in the seller's name, this escrow addendum allows the mortgage company and the taxes and the insurance company, all those companies, to send you, the homeowner, that money, because you're the one that has been making those payments over the last 3, 4, 5 years. You're the one that has been, managing the property and making, all the payments and stuff. So that money is your money. You don't want it to go back to the seller who, gave you the property 5 years ago, and if they've had no input, they've taken no risk, they've done nothing with that house, and it's been all you. So you want to make sure that if there is an overpayment, it comes back to you. Statement to the mortgage company. We do one more document that goes to the mortgage company, and then what it says is that said seller is placing the property, allowing my business, Johnson Property Investments, to manage the property, and it gives me the right to contact the mortgage company if I need to. Let's say I need a payoff, or I need to make sure the insurance were paid or something of that nature. I can use this statement to the mortgage company. It's the seller's giving me permission to talk to the mortgage company. Now you may say, but Adam, you have a power of attorney. Yes, we do. We will use the power of attorney at last resort. We don't want to have to get to that point, but we want to keep everything, everything as smooth as possible. So if we can use the statement to the mortgage company and let the mortgage company work with us, fantastic. If they give us any pushback, we have the power of attorney to use to be able to get that information should we need to get a payoff inquiry or something of that nature. So kind of almost overkill, but you can never have too much documentation supporting you and what you're doing. Lastly is the seller information sheet, okay? The seller, I'm gonna say it 1,000 times, is still on that mortgage, okay? So you guys, you're in a relationship. You need them, they need you. They're on that mortgage, okay? There may be times, for example, when you need the seller information to be able to get to log into the online account. For example, let's say you buy a property and the property is mortgaged by PennyMac. Well, many times those mortgage companies will sell that mortgage to another lender. So for example, let's say that PennyMac sold your mortgage to Wells Fargo, okay? Well, if I'm the homeowner and I need to log in to set up the automatic payments, and it was with PennyMac, now it's with Wells Fargo, I may need to verify information. I may need the seller's, for example, the birth date or the last four of the social security number to be able to establish an online account so that I can make those payments. So it's just one more thing to have to make your life simple, because let's say you may say, well, Adam, you can just contact the sellers to ask the information. I can. However, they may be out of the area. They may not be reachable. Many of our sellers are military. They may be deployed, for example. They may be out of the country. They may be on training in the field, for example. And I may not have the time to wait for 7 months for them to return, or 3 days to get back from the field to be able to call me. So we have the asset, we have the property. Now we need to have all the documentation to support us in acting on behalf of that seller for that property. Those are the 6 documents that we use on all properties, all transactions, to be able to cover us. And let me just say, I didn't say this up front, your documentation is the most important part of your business, okay? You got to have the legalities taken care of, and you got to have the documents to support you, because we haven't went through litigation yet, knock on wood. We don't want to go through litigation, but it's always around the corner. It's always a possibility. Here in our country, anyone can sue anybody for anything. So if the time ever comes, we're going to be prepared. We'll be ready for that. And lastly, I talked about the 6 documents, but also the verbiage in those documents. You want to make sure that it clearly states, like in the statement of understanding, it clearly states in the purchase agreement that the mortgage is not being paid off. Money is not being transferred. Me, the incoming buyer, is going to take responsibility and start paying that mortgage directly to the mortgage company in full. We have verbiage in our contract that says that the sellers will provide us the login information for the online accounts. It says that. So because you have to have access to that kind of stuff. It says that they will provide us the information for the insurance. We can confirm the insurance is current. Those types of things. It says that the property will be cleaned and handed over in a certain type of manner. You don't want to have just an open-ended contract. You want to make sure that you cover all aspects of acquiring a property. When I started out, my attorney had given me the contracts and stuff, and it was kind of generic. And through trial and error, after buying maybe 12, 15 houses, we started seeing, it was less than that, probably the first 4 or 5, we started seeing trends of certain things that were less than favorable to us, like people leaving the house a mess or something like that, just offloading their problems and leaving the area. So we put in our contracts. Everything in our contract is because something has happened. Everything is to protect us from whatever happened ever happening again. I always say, we've lost many times, but I've never lost the same way twice. If I get beaten or if somebody finds a loophole in a legality or something of that nature, I always close that loophole. I figure out a way. I talk to my attorney. I say, how can we prevent this from ever happening again? And our contracts are super strong because we built them over the last 7 years of getting stronger and better with each transaction. So, guys, please understand the importance of documentation, having the right documentation. Please talk to your attorney. We have downloadable documents as well. Don't be cheap and just try to Google some stuff for the sake of saving $50, okay? Do it the right way. Protect your business from day one the right way. That's it for this class. I can't wait to see you guys for the next class. Until then, let's get to it.
Thank you for watching. If you got lots of value from our free content, you're going to love the one-on-one coaching, group coaching, and seminars that we offer on our website at reisimplified.co. We look forward to guiding you through the early steps of building your business, buying real estate, and working towards financial freedom. Let's go buy some houses.